Today I am sitting across from Dorian. Dorian is a mama of three. She is a push prep graduate, and she has a pretty special story that I am very honored and excited to share. So thank you for being here, Dorian. You you've been through a lot. And this is a story of growth, as you mentioned before we started recording. But in a nutshell, I'll get to the point. You had a vaginal birth after two cesareans, which is something that is not always attainable for a variety of reasons for many people. So I'd love, first of all, thank you for being here. And I'd love to learn a little bit more about your journey.
Thank you. Yeah. Where shall we begin? Should we begin from my first baby to my second to the third? Do you want that progression?
Yeah, that would be great. That would be great. And the gap between the ages, all of the details, I think people will probably want to know.
Okay, so my eldest is my boy, my first boy. He's just turned 6 on June 25th. So he's 6 years old. He was born in 2017. My girl will be 4 in October. So she was October 2019. And then my most recent is my boy, who was born December 5th, 2022. So the first gap, they're 2 and a quarter.
Mhm.
And then from my second to my third, it's 3 years and 2 months.
Okay.
I was under midwifery care for all three. The intention with the first one, and that's where I was in that time, was to have a natural birth. And when I say natural, as much as possible, unmedicated birth in a hospital setting,
Mhm.
because because I'm not sure. I probably was open to a home birth back then as well, but almost to appease everyone, family, like, oh, like it's scary and fearful to have, or it's not safe, or it's a lot of projections that
Of
come to
course.
you, right? So great midwifery care in a hospital setting, and I was good with that, and I didn't. I was just so happy to be pregnant first time, and I had a great pregnancy, and I was blessed with that. And I was excited and glowing, and I felt so good. And I didn't do much more prep than that. I just thought, like, I'm gonna have a baby. It's, like my body knows how to do this. Like I was, doing goddess pose and squatting down, and it's gonna come. Why wouldn't it come to me? It's gonna just be easy, right? Um, and then that was also a special. They're all, I mean, every birth story is special, right, in its own right. So here comes my firstborn, and I was I was quote unquote GBS positive, and
Yep.
I wasn't with the other two. Um, and I don't know, just a little tidbit. I didn't take a probiotic with the first one,
Mhm.
and I did with the other two, and then I was negative with the other two. So I don't know. I think if you take a probiotic, it could really help. So that's just another extra little tidbit there. So I was GBS positive, and worst case scenario was that like your water would break first, and then you have this like window of time. Again, I wasn't overly educated, so I want to also thank like your platform with the third birth. The amount of information that was on that platform just was an extra layer of feeling empowered with knowledge. So I didn't have that knowledge the first time around, and that's okay. I just thought I'm gonna have a baby, right?
Yep.
and you trust your healthcare providers as you should, but I didn't know more than that to go with that. So anyway, my water breaks, but like in the movies, like
Oh no. Where were you? At home? In
at home.
Walmart? Okay. Where?
This is a story on its own. It was 3 o'clock in the morning. We were really bad sleepers then. We used to go to bed really late. And I was going to put on The Handmaid's Tale.
Oh
And
no.
3 o'clock in the
That's
morning.
dark.
And I'm trying to get my husband to understand. I like put out my legs. I said, it's so weird. They put out their legs and they hold, and psh, my water
Oh.
breaks on the bed, like huge. Like it was a mess. I was like, I look at him and I go, I think my water broke. And I said, let me reward that. My water just broke. So I called the midwife, and she's like, like there was no other signs of labor. I had no contractions, whatever. And she, I think she said, like, do you spontaneously think you're going to go into contractions? I'm like, I don't know. I
No,
don't
no.
know.
How many weeks were you now? Sorry to interrupt. I'm
I
curious.
was one day before my due date.
Okay.
So 39 and what is that? 39 and
6.
yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, we meet at the hospital 2 hours later, something like that, and induction starts.
Mm-hmm.
And it was good. I didn't really have a problem with the induction. A lot of people say you're a lot more pain with the induction. That wasn't that wasn't my experience because she was like, "Do you feel that contraction?" And I'm like, "No." So I was like 6 centimeters. I wasn't feeling
Oh,
anything.
wow.
So that wasn't my case. What I can say is that now having this other experience, I didn't feel connected.
Mm.
It was like mechanical. Like I didn't. That's how I can explain that. For my induction, it just felt like it wasn't connection. I didn't have a connection to what was going on in my
Mm-hmm.
body.
Mm-hmm.
I get to 9 centimeters, no epidural. I'm using the TENS machine. It was just weird. For me, it was just weird. It was no other experience I could like compare it to, but it was just weird. At one point, like my mom and my mother-in-law were coming in, and it was just like because they care and they were worried, but it was just weird. It was just a weird progress, and then and then at some point the baby's in distress with each contraction I had that I'm not aware, but my husband sees the heart, whatever, and the
Mm-hmm.
midwife, um, and I'm offered an epidural. Sometimes the epidural helps to calm things, and I knew in that moment they're offering me this epidural. I already knew what was going to happen, right? Look how many years later it is, and like still like
Oh,
it
it's
was
a
it was
lot.
it was a lot. It was a lot, and the doctor on call on the hospital floor comes in and says, "Well, sometimes you just need to relax a little bit, and then you could maybe have an opportunity to to try again." And the midwife at the time looked at me and she was like, "What do you want to do, Dorian?" And it was very serious. And I was
Mm.
like, "Well, if the midwife is looking at me like like I chose midwifery care on purpose. They obviously want to advocate for natural
Yeah.
delivery as much as possible. If she's worried, then I should be worried too, I think." And so I just looked and I said, "I don't know. Do I have like half an hour to cry?" And I just cried, and then I prepared for a cesarean. So that was the first case.
So fetal distress was the main indicator,
Yeah, and
according to them.
he was trying to come out. I have this story sometimes to him, like, it's like I blame. There's no blame, but if anything, like of course I don't blame the baby. I almost blame my body. I feel like my body wasn't relaxed enough and given the opportunity to open slowly. Like, and
Mm.
he was
Yeah.
trying to come because when he was born with a cone head. Like he
Mhm.
was trying to come. I wasn't relaxed enough, and I don't know. There could be a thousand reasons for that. Um, could it be because you're in a hospital setting, you're not as relaxed? I don't know. Could it be the fact that I didn't do all the preparation work ahead of time to be relaxed every day? I don't know. Like it doesn't matter what that end result is. I mean, it does perhaps matter, but um, that's what I think. I think my body was not in a place to open naturally. It tried. He definitely was trying to descend, but it wasn't happening. So then the question was, well, can I? I don't
Mm.
know. Can I even have a vaginal birth? Like maybe my body can't do it. Like so all these questions go through your
Of
head, right? Like
course.
I don't know, maybe I can't, right? Like I didn't get that experience. Beautiful cesarean. So lucky. My prayer was like that I heal well from internally. I didn't even care what the scar looked like outside. Gorgeous, surgery. It all went well. I healed great inside and out. With that said, like it's still an extremely traumatic surgery, and it's very like hoo-ha. It's the only surgery that you go home after 2 days and you have to take care for a newborn and no physiotherapy or anything, and it's pretty intense. And I can only speak for myself. I know I have other friends that are back to moving and whatever in a couple of weeks. That wasn't my experience. Like I truly took a whole year to recover. So that was that experience. But again, super grateful that that all went well. Baby was healthy, mommy was healthy. Just didn't expect, just didn't expect that. What do you mean? I'm having surgery now? Like
Yeah.
what? Like
Going to
I'm
9 centimeters unmedicated while being induced. Was it on Pitocin? Like that's intense.
healthy. I
Yeah.
move. I do yoga. Well, it should just slide out of me. It's like what
Yeah.
was my expectation, but that quickly changed. And so that's my first story. Blessed again, like all of it actually leads to, it's just my story, right? My
Sure.
journey,
Thank
which
you for
makes,
sharing it. It's a lot. I know this is a lot. Take as long as you want. We'll take as many breaks as you want.
right, and which makes like almost like that last little piece even more like wow, right?
Yeah.
Like wow. Without the first two, it wouldn't be as magical and miracle-ish or something, right? Like it's like whoa, right? That was all supposed to be part of my journey to be like, wow, this is possible. Your
Hmm.
body is amazing what it can do. And again, I think I said this before, so I probably didn't say it before, but this is my story, of course. So doesn't mean it's right for everyone. Um, I'm super grateful that I had this opportunity and this experience for this third birth because after my second, which I'll share my second story, I was 90% sure no more babies because I didn't want another cesarean. I don't want to be cut open again. Like that was the biggest reason. That was like the biggest reason. No more babies. I don't want to be cut open. And again, I don't want to dismiss it because there's people that want to elect cesareans and they prefer that route. So everybody, each to their own, of course, right? Anyway, fast forward, I get pregnant with my second, and I want to attempt a VBAC. Okay. Again, in a hospital setting, midwifery care. It was a completely different pregnancy. Um, so with my boys, I gained, and I'm a pretty small frame. With my boys, it's just a number, but still, just to give you a
Hmm.
reference, I gained 35 pounds with my boys,
Hmm.
and with my girl, I gained 51 pounds on my
Those
frame, which
hormones.
I was so uncomfortable. I was so big.
Yeah.
It was just, she was 8 days late, and I'm sitting in this fear,
Yeah.
major fear that I'm not sure. Did I have birth trauma from the first one that I didn't rectify? I didn't know. I didn't know it was existed, that it was still there. I was like, oh, maybe. Like now looking at it, I didn't realize it was still there. I'm having, I don't know, nightmares, you want to call it? Like she's so big, she's not like, they're like, call if you don't feel the baby. I'm like, you want me to call every 2 minutes? Like the baby is not moving. There's no room in this belly of mine. I don't feel my baby. I didn't have that connection. Like she occasionally moved, but it was, I don't know, fear. I was like, oh my God, my brain went to the worst parts. Like, what if she's a stillborn? Like I was having nightmares, like nightmares. So here we are, whatever, 41 and one day or something. I don't know, whatever that is. Whatever that day, she was 8 days late. So whatever that was, 41 in a day. You go for an ultrasound now at this point after the 41. So I go for the ultrasound that morning and I score a 6 out of 8 or yeah, 6 out of 8, which basically just means baby's not so comfortable and like it's time. It's time. Let's get the baby out. So second birth, no spontaneous labor or contractions. Go back to the hospital to meet. Midwife is there, doctor's there, and the doctor, they plug in some numbers and like, well, you can try. It's like a 40% chance. And I just looked and I was like, I'm not doing it again. Like, no. So in the moment, I elected a C-section there, which was the right decision for me then. Um, because I was just sitting in so much fear. So the amount of fear that I had was going to be closing my body anyway. It wouldn't have been, I don't want to say it wouldn't have been successful, but most likely, knowing myself, it wouldn't have been successful because of the fear and the intensity in my body. So another gorgeous C-section, another like beautiful cut, beautiful healing. Again, when I say beautiful healing, like it healed from inside, but again, a whole year, took me a whole year. Like I'm talking like I can't walk up the stairs.
Mm.
I set up a whole bed in like the down, like I slept on the couch for the first 3 weeks with the baby in
Mhm.
like the docket top beside me, because it's just not like, I did the first time, I don't want to say the wrong way, but first time around with a C-section, I was like, I felt so good. Nobody told me that, I've had all these drugs in my body. They said, walk around. I was walking around. I felt so good. And when the drugs wore off, I was like in so much pain. I was like, nobody told me. Nobody told me it was going to hurt this much. So I really took it easy the second time. And it took a long time to heal. Um, both times, I don't know if it oh, I'm sorry, this I don't know if it had to do with C-section or just, being not prepared with babies and all of that. But looking back now, I had pretty intense postpartum. I don't know if it's connected or not. I did not have it this time around. This time around, I was like,
Yeah.
people are saying it must be really hard now with the three. I'm like, I feel great. Like, it's, of course you have your challenges, but it was just a different experience. Now, with that being said, I'm obviously a different person now than I was 5 years ago, than I was 3 years ago, than I was yesterday. We're always kind of moving forward. So, um, yeah, two beautiful cesarean births. Still, experience that gorgeous magic and miracle of growing a baby within, which is a miracle on its own, right? Like huge. And then God grants me a third opportunity. And I call my midwife and I say, can I still have midwifery care if I know it has to be a C-section? It has to be a C-section, right? Because I've had two. Yeah, of course you can have midwifery care. And then again, my journey, and this was right for me. And it doesn't mean it's, right for, may this story be heard by those who need to hear it most. Um, Magic and miracles. Not only a birth story, but I really feel that it was a huge spiritual growth for me. So it was my soul's journey, this opportunity, because I had come to peace. I was like, okay, no vaginal birth in this lifetime. And I believe in other lives. And I truly knew I had done this before in other past lives. I was like, okay, it's okay. I know what this feels like. I know exactly what, like, I've done this before. So I made peace with it. But I guess there was a part of me that really needed it in this lifetime too. And all I can say is that you have these teachers in your lifetime, in your story, and the right people just planted the seeds at the right time. And it was my family doctor that said, well, what do you mean? Why do you need to have another cesarean? I'm like, well, I had two. And she's like, so? I was like, really? What? I was like, okay. So I went back to that information to the midwives and I was like, maybe, like, I don't know. So scared though, because this is not right. Society says, no, no, no. Like, society says you should, no. Like, after two cesareans, 100% you should have a third cesarean. Like, I'm crazy to think this. And so I had to sit with that too, right? Like, am I crazy to think this? And part of me was like, okay, well, I know what a cesarean looks like, and maybe I should just do that. So it's more fear of like the opposite. I don't know what the other thing looks like, right? Like I have zero idea what a like. So my experience is okay. I did have the induction, and I did have all of that actually. So my first one was a little bit longer the process there, but I can only speak to like these two flip sides, right? So like two cesareans and then a vaginal birth at home, which I'll speak about this, what happened there, right? So it's like there's no in between, like no like epidural and pushing with
Yeah.
an epidural. Like I can't speak to that. Like I don't have that middle. It's like these two extremes. So I go back with, okay, maybe we'll try this vaginal birth. But is it possible in a hospital? It's like everything inside of me kind of knew that you get to the hospital, they'll say, the safest thing to do is cut you open, right? And you're going to be like, yeah. And it was still at the end of this like pandemic, which was very eerie on its own. Like I
Oh
walked,
yeah.
right? So I went into the, I'm also on my negative, my husband's A positive, so I get this
The
RH shot.
RH shot. Yeah.
So I went in there at, I don't know, was it 7, 8 months pregnant, and to get this RH shot. And I just was like, I don't know about this. Everyone, like, it was still with the whole masks and really, really just cold. And again, this is just how I felt.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people feel much more safe in a hospital, but that was my experience. I walked in and it was like, oh, this is kind of, I felt creeped out, actually, to tell you the truth. And I came home and I was like, I don't think I want to go to the hospital. And my husband was completely supportive. And he's like, well, you know, um, but it's not safe to do it at home, obviously. Like, we should not have a vaginal birth at home after two C-sections. Like, no, right? And then one of my midwives, we always have two midwifery care, right? So one of my midwives was planting the seed, like, no, I think a home birth is, she kind of just planted the seed. And I was like, no, no, no. I was sitting in a lot of fear. I'm like, well, how about, you're like compromising. Well,
Yeah.
how about I just, stay at home until I'm in transition and then we go. And she's like, yeah, it doesn't really work like that.
I love that you're like selling her on different ideas here. You're like, what about this? What about
Right? And, and there was a student teacher, I'll never forget this. And she's like, just planning a home birth will set you up for positivity. Anyway, I wasn't 100% sold on that because there's this societal fear. So I
Mhm.
held on to that fear.
And you had people in your life probably projecting their own stuff on your decision, right?
Yes. Yes. 100%. Right. So forget the home birth, just the vaginal birth, like a vaginal birth after C-section. That's not like, no, right? Like, if you spoke to some people, like some people in my family or friends, whatever, it's like, well, no, like, the science says this is the safest and this and this and this. And I was like, yeah, maybe the safest for you, but I know my body doesn't want another surgery like that. And I just knew my body could do it. I just knew. So I chose to, first of all, get extra ultrasounds to see how my scarring had healed, extra ultrasounds to make sure, this is near the end, to see where the placenta was, and everything was in my favor this time around. Everything was lined up.
Mhm.
This time around, I had a beautiful connection with the baby. It moved all the time. Every time I spoke to the baby would get, like, it was a different experience for me. I chose in the last 3 weeks, probably especially, to just really close off my phone. Even like, I only had space for my own fear, that I did not have space to hold other people's fear and projections as well.
Yeah,
My
fair.
fear was too immense. It was too much. It was too much. So what I did was I prayed. And it might sound, I don't know, a little bit hippy dippy or hoo ha for some, but like, I have never experienced, I understand the power of manifestation. I, I, I wish I could do it like what I manifested and what came to life. I wish I had the consistency to manifest more in my life, put it this way. But every night there was the fear and the love, the two wolves, and they were getting fed equally. I don't know why, but they would get fed equally. And every night I would squash that fear. I'd pray. I did hypnobirthing. I lit the Palo Santo incense, and I called upon all the angels and whoever was part of this journey for me and the baby to be with us. And I'd squash that fear and be filled with love. And I'd say every night, I swear to God, every night I'd say, we got this. And the baby would go boom, boom, boom in my tummy. It was beautiful. And then you'd wake up the next morning and that fear came back. Like,
Mhm.
who do you think you are? You're crazy. That absolutely not. Just book the C-section. Like, you know. And then I manifested it again. Every night, I just manifested it. And I quietly in my heart manifested, may it be so quick, may it be so calm, and may it be so safe that I don't get to the hospital. Those were my three words: quick, calm, safe. that it happens at home without having to get to the hospital. This is what I manifested. Just said it. I just said it. I just said it. So that it would organically just happen at home. It would just happen. Right? Like I think I read something on your page right now where it was unintentional home birth at home, unassisted, the whole bit. And that almost happened. So the midwife showed up, for example, at 11:15. Baby was born at 11:59.
Oh
Just
my
to
God,
give
I have shivers, Dorian. We're gonna need to know all the details about this. I'm sorry.
So baby was born, let me tell you this too. Baby was born on his due date, December 5th.
Wow.
Monday, December 5th. And that weekend, my two older ones, so it was Monday. My two older ones were at my mom's. They slept there because I was just
Yeah.
nobody knew. Like again, I kept a lot of this to myself. I spoke to girlfriends that had home births or this or I chose to speak to people who believed in me more than I believed in myself. Put it this way, that like because like who was I kidding? Like this the fear was so strong. And I remember somebody saying, "Well, what are you scared of? That you're gonna have another C-section?" I'm like, "No, of course not. I know what that looks like. I
Mhm.
mean, I'm gonna be resentful because I didn't even wrap the kid's birth, the Christmas presents and the wrapping papers in the basement. I'm not gonna be able to go get like I went all spiraling there, right? Like who's gonna help me do that stuff? I spiraled that way. I'm not going to go to Christmas this time if I have a cesarean. Nobody understands. Like I played that narrative too, but it was like, no, like what am I trying to do? This is not safe. Society says I'm irresponsible. Society says like this is crazy. This is blah, blah all the negative stuff. And I knew it wasn't my truth.
Mhm.
And again, my story, right? And I knew it wasn't my truth, but I had to squash it because the narrative was still there. So that weekend, I filled up with the biggest fear, the biggest grief, the biggest prayer, and I saw my biggest fear in its face. And for me, I wasn't worried. I think the biggest risk supposedly for vaginal birth after C-section is um, uterine rupture. I wasn't I wasn't worried about that. I guess I should have been, but I wasn't worried about that. I knew that wasn't going to happen. I just knew in my body. My biggest fear in all three pregnancies was baby's going to come out not breathing. That was just my fear. Everyone
Mhm.
has a different fear. My girlfriend's fear in all three of her pregnancies was uterine rupture. Like, so everyone had something that they have to
Sure.
face. And I faced it and I knew it wasn't going to happen. And then I let go and let God. I said, I've done my work now. And I thanked God and I thanked my higher self and I thanked my angels. And I said, no matter what happens now, even if I end up having another cesarean, thank you for the journey and the lessons I've learned because I learned so much and I grew so much. It was like, oh my God, I just grew so much and that was enough. That was enough for me. And baby heard me. Baby was like, okay, mommy's ready. I went to bed, 2 o'clock in the morning, labor start. He just heard. He was like, okay, she did the work. She let go. She let God. I surrendered. And baby's like, okay, let's do this. So 2 o'clock in the morning, I'm starting to feel contractions. But I'm like, are they real? Are they not? I don't know. Never had them before. I knew they were, but I was like, keeping this to myself. So, and they were about 5 minutes apart. And I was timing them, and they were only about 30 seconds long. And I was timing them. And it was enough to be uncomfortable that I was traveling from bed to bed. And then I finally just got up and I went downstairs and I started to stretch a little bit and just breathe through them. Again, didn't tell my husband, didn't tell anybody, just doing my thing. Because this was my manifestation. I said I was not going to tell anybody. I was just going to stay and labor as long as I could and then just take one step at a time. Whatever was meant to be will be. Like that was it. That's the way I was going to look at it. So 7 o'clock, no, yeah, I fell asleep for about 45 minutes. I think from like 6:15 in the morning till 7. Then 7 o'clock, I'm awake again. And then my husband comes down around like 8 and he was like, he knew something was kind of up because he was like, well, should not. But like, I'm keeping this to myself to the point that I literally almost let my husband go fix the car in the morning. I was like, yeah, go, go, go. And then all of a sudden my water breaks. He's like, yeah, I don't think I'm going to go. I'm keeping myself busy. I'm like, no, no, I'm not telling anybody. I'm not calling midwife. I'm not doing this like as long as I can by myself, right? Um, get the Windex out, start cleaning the mirrors, the whole bit.
Did not.
I sure did. So I was upstairs in the upstairs bathroom cleaning the mirror, and that's when my water broke.
But you're Greek, right? It's like a Windex thing.
Yes, I never thought
It's
of
my
that.
big fat Greek wedding. Like the Windex, put some Windex.
There you go. There's the Windex. Never thought of that connection. And my
Oh my
water
God,
breaks.
I'm dying. I'm laughing and crying at the same time. Oh my God. Okay,
I
please
know it's like
continue.
it's so beautiful. It's all beautiful. It's all beautiful. Everybody's right. Like it's all just so beautiful and just unique on its own. But that was it. So I was cleaning a window. I swayed my hips. I felt a little, contraction, and then my water breaks. And I'm like, okay, I guess I should call the midwives now that my water broke. So 8:30, I think my water breaks. I go downstairs. I take a deep breath. Um, Paige, the midwife. I end up speaking to the midwife around 9 o'clock, and she's preparing me. So like I knew I was already kind of in labor, but I didn't know how long I was in labor. And she's like, okay, so we'll probably assume that this is early labor. You know, um, if it's that, I'm like, if it's that, what are you talking about?
Did you have a tub set up in your house or anything like that?
Um, so, so, yeah. So my husband bought me one of those birthing tubs.
Yeah, yeah.
And we did have it set up, and I did a lot of like my breathing and sitting in it and visualizing in it. Um, we didn't use it. We didn't use it. So just to get to that point, we didn't use it, but it was very helpful in the manifestation and visualization part of it. So it was downstairs, and I had this beautiful like big space downstairs that potentially would happen there. Again, playing it by ear. We had to go to hospital, whatever. I'm gonna just live it out as long as possible at home, right? Um, but again, manifestation, power of manifestation, it didn't end up the way I perhaps visualized. I wrote the birth story in my journal to visualize how it's going to be. But again, calm, quick, calm, safe. Well, those were the three words, and that's what happened, and that's all that had to happen. So she says, go stretch, do your thing. So I, the Palo Santo, I still have it. Here's the Palo Santo. I do the Palo Santo in the
And
room.
Windex.
No
Sorry.
Windex there. No Windex there. That was just me keeping busy. That was me keeping busy. But Palo Santo, the candles, like whatever, and go into a child's pose. And I'm like, and she said, your body will organically know when it's time to shift, and when that happens, go have a warm bath.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I last not even 5 minutes stretching. Like, okay, fuck this. Excuse my language. I'm gonna go do a bath now. So I fill
Mm-hmm.
up the bathtub upstairs. I'm upstairs now. Um, Fill up the bathtub, sit down. Oh, I'm like, who thinks this is comfortable? I drain the bathtub. That's it. I'm not getting out of this bathtub. That's it. One after the other, after the other, after the other. Oh my God, oh my God. So
Yeah,
I end
the
up on
pressure.
all fours,
Yep.
one hand with my left hand on the side of the bathtub. I'm on all fours on my knees, and I'm using the shower head now, each contraction on my tummy. Oh, low voice, you say? I did low voice.
The
I said,
mooing.
I just went, my voice was,
Yeah.
oh, I moved, but it was, oh, and I just kept saying, because the first time around was, my boy's heart was in distress. So I just kept saying, calm mommy, calm baby, calm mommy, calm baby, calm mommy, become, that's all I said to myself in my brain. Relax your jaw, relax your shoulders, relax your jaw, relax your shoulders, breathe down, breathe down. That's all I kept saying. Oh, and so one of my girlfriends, this story gets better. One of my girlfriends, by accident, we met in a pod setting when it was all during the pandemic. We met organically. Our boys went into the same pod. She had the same midwife as me, and she had 3 home births. So she was like on my side. Of course, you can have a vaginal birth after. Of course, you can. Your body's amazing. Like she was like my like power source in a way. And she's like, I don't want to keep asking you, like, because you probably have enough people asking you if you're going into labor or this or that. Just, if you feel up to it when you in labor, maybe just send me a text or something. So here I am. Oh, and my phone's there. And I'm like, do I let her know? I'm like, so I text her. I said, my water just broke. And she calls me and I'm like, do I answer? I'm like, yeah, okay, I'll answer. And she's like, this is good. This is great. This is great. This is good. And then she hears me. She hears me. And
Oh
she's
yeah.
like, no, 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 this is not early labor, Dorian. No, no,
You're
no,
like,
no, no.
yeah,
No. Well, this is active labor, Dorian. Like,
yeah.
no, no, no. It was like one. She's like, who's timing this? She goes like, where's your husband? She's, where's the midwife? She was she was like, does anybody else care? What's happening? And she was like in panic for me. And
Yeah.
I was like when I was in it, there's no
You're in the zone. You're in the zone.
I, zero fear. I was just like, I got to do this. I just was like, I have just enough energy to fill my body up with air again to go back to, oh, that's all.
Yes.
I'm like, I'm not calling. I can't call the midwife. No, I have no energy for this. So she calls the midwife because she, and she, the midwife's like, what the hell's going on? Like, she's like, no, no, Dorian's in active labor. Like, like, I don't understand,
Get to her house now.
It's almost like I should write a comedy about this. But she's like, where's your husband? And he was doing all this
Fixing the
stuff.
car.
Yeah, he was doing all this stuff that should have been done like last week. He was putting the car seat in the car because, we have to get to the hospital. He was blowing up my birthing ball. I was like, no, I don't need that now. That was for that was like with this huge ball stuck in the way in. I'm like, I don't need the ball. And I'm like, oh. And then my girlfriend says, I'm on speaker. He's there. And my girlfriend's like, do you want me to come? Do you want me to come? And he knew I wanted nobody at my birth, like just me. And I'm like, no, 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 no. And then I'm like, oh, I'm like, yes, 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 yes. And she drives from Orangeville. I'm in Etobicoke. She drives from Orangeville. Like it's all magic and miracles. I don't know how she got to my house. There was no gas in her car. When she tried to leave my house, my husband had to go get gas to put in her car. Like, I don't know how she got here. She gets here at exactly the same time as the midwife. The midwife knows her because, it's also her midwife. Usually you're supposed to have two midwives. No, right? Because it was so fast. So she's like the second she basically coached me through the breaths. And I just looked at her and I was like, I can only concentrate on one breath at a time. And she's like, yes, yes. Oh, again. Okay. So, oh. So then like my mom is calling, and maybe not my mom was busy with my two kids, but my mother-in-law was calling to see, every day to see where I was at. So she at one point, I think she called and here I am going, oh, in the middle of the bathtub. And my husband's like, okay, I gotta go, mom. And he puts it he has power tools and stuff. He's like making power tool sounds like, we gotta go. She's busy, whatever. And all this stuff was just happening and really quickly because and you were not getting me out of that bathtub at that point.
And there's no water in it at this point. It's just an empty bathtub.
Empty bathtub. Best place. All clean.
Yeah. Don't have to Windex it later. Sorry.
Oh, no, all clean.
Oh.
And it just all happened so fast, but that's what I wanted.
Yeah.
Calm, safe. Quick, calm, safe. And I knew the baby was coming. I could feel it. At one point I felt my pubic bones kind of opening.
Yep.
The midwife comes at it was 11:15, like I said. And I don't think anybody expected everything to be as quick it was. And it was like, okay, well, it doesn't look like we're going to get to the hospital. It doesn't even look like we're going to get her on the bathtub. Because at one point there's like, do you want to go downstairs?
Oh, yeah, no.
To this imaginary tub that I had and all this visualization and whatever. I'm like, oh no, you're not moving me. Like you're not
can't
moving
move. No, I know.
So she comes to the edge of the bathtub and she's like, okay, I need to ask you two questions. Because you've had, two cesareans, I should have an intravenous in your arm just in case, blah, blah, blah. And do you want me to check to see how dilated you are? And I was like, whatever you want to do. And then back to my whole, I was like, baby's coming. Like, baby is coming.
Yeah.
So the thing never went in my arm at that point. She comes to check on me. And the first cervical check she has checks and goes, baby's crowning. Baby's crowning. And I'm like, yeah, baby's crowning. And it's on the paper at 11:57 was my first breath or whatever to push out the baby's head, and baby was born at 11:59. So she was like, I thought you were going to be pushing for another hour or something, but 2-3 breaths, I just breathed down and thought of opening and blossoming, and baby just came out, just kind of came out. And the head came out. And she said, catch your baby. And at that point, I put my hands up and I said, no, I can't. And she caught the baby, and baby came out.
They're
And I
so
helped.
slippery. It's hard, right? You could think you're gonna
I
so
was just,
slippery.
yeah, I was
Yeah.
fearful.
Yeah.
But no, she also braced me. She said, "Stop, stop, 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 stop! I don't want you to tear too much. Stop, stop, stop!" Because like
Yeah.
baby was coming out. So baby's head came out, and then she braced, like she took towels and braced this, I guess
Shoulders.
the area, and then the rest of the baby came out, and he was perfect, just perfect, to the point that people assumed I had another C-section. Nothing, just perfect, perfect color, blinking his eyes, the whole bit. And then she says to me, "Oh my God, a true knot." And I said, "A what?" And I'm like in shock right now. "A what?" In his cord, he had a full knot.
Oh my gosh.
So at some point, he did some somersaults in there.
Mm-hmm.
So it was just miracle after miracle after miracle. But baby came back out healthy and happy. Mommy was healthy and happy. And it was just the most beautiful, it was the most primal experience I've ever had and ever probably will have. And I would have never had that. And again, not to dismiss that hospital, but I would have never had that experience in a hospital. No way. There's just no way.
Mm-hmm.
To the point where I was like, how does anybody have a vaginal birth at a hospital? That's what I questioned afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
How do you have a vaginal birth at a hospital? Like, I know what a
A
cesarean,
lot of advocating in many ways.
but that's kind of how I felt. I was like, that, like that, on my hands and knees, breathing down, like that. Where would I have done that at a hospital? I'm sure there's opportunity for sure in space, but you really have to put your mind around that. And I was definitely preparing myself to go to the hospital, and I took all the Timbits I was going in a baseball cap, huge sunglasses, the whole bit. The midwife and my girlfriend were laughing. "Why sunglasses?" I'm like, "Because the lights. I wasn't gonna be distracted by anything this time if I had to be there, you know." Um, but that was my question. I was like, again, it might not be, if this is important to you and your self journey, that would just be my question. It's not important to everybody, right? Like, um, and that's also great and fine and okay. But obviously, this was important to me and my personal growth and my soul evolution and growth and spiritual growth, I should say. And um, it was obviously important enough to me to have this experience, I think. And I think that's why I was granted it. And it took a lot of work, a lot of work. Again, squashing that fear, like really squashing that fear. And when it all happened, and then just lying in bed after with the baby, and I just looked at my husband and we're like, this is different. This is so different. And we just like, whoa, like what just happened? This is like, we're at home now with the baby. I just don't know how to explain it. It was just like, I don't know. Like it was just an experience that I am so grateful for, and I just so grateful for. And I understand that there could have been a flip side. Um, and I appreciate that. Because when people speak about that, obviously they tell you because they worry about you and love you and want all the safety of that. And um, I do sit with that sometimes, but that takes the magic and miracle away, right? And it kind of diminishes my experience, and I don't want that either. It was real to me. It is real to me, and may everyone believe in magic and miracles, and may everyone believe in the power of manifestation, because that is magic on its own. And of course, a hospital setting, in case of an emergency, has more hands, right? We know that it has more hands for like in case of that. So I'm not dismissing that. I'm lucky, I guess, or I don't know what the word is. Grateful, or I'm grateful that it all worked out well. But I do believe that I put in the time and the work for that, and really asked for that calm, quick, and
Mm-hmm.
safe birth. And things can happen, I think, anywhere, right? Like if we really stop and say that, like, I guess you just have to question what kind of experience you want, right? and look at both, all of it, but it's kind of like, well, then you shouldn't get on that airplane because it might crash, and you shouldn't drive to pick up your kids today because you might get in an accident, and you shouldn't walk on the sidewalk because somebody might hit you. There's opportunities for things to happen all the time in a way. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, so I don't know. I don't know where I'm going with this, but do you know where I'm going with this? Like,
I do know what you mean. And I feel like there's almost like what I've heard you say first, a couple of things that came up for me that I think come up for a lot of people when describing prior trauma. So you went through, and thank you for that, because I know it's very draining. You shared the story of your first, especially your first cesarean and then your second. And you kept saying, I'm grateful, I'm grateful. And I want anyone listening to this to know you can have birth trauma. It doesn't make you ungrateful for your healthy baby. They can exist, they can coexist. You can be grateful for a healthy baby, but also be mourning your experience. And there's room for both. And I think there is this idea that if you express your trauma, you're somehow a bad mother, you're somehow ungrateful for the fact that you now have a healthy baby. Like, just shut up, suck it up. That's part of motherhood. You should be grateful. And to voice anything other than that, is akin to being ungrateful or a bad mom. So I think we need to throw that in the garbage. You know what I'm saying? And then there's also, and I get it. And I'm grateful for you sharing, because anytime we talk about self-advocating or following our instincts, or saying no to something, be it an induction, be it even not wanting an IV, I mean, you're going to get a lot of projection of other people's bad experiences or negative or scary experiences. Well, you don't know what can happen. That's irresponsible of you, blah, blah, blah. And I can imagine that anyone listening to this who is hoping to have or planning for a VBAC is going to be filled with many voices of people saying, well, why would you want to risk it? Why would you be so audacious to put your baby's life at risk? You're going to get a lot of that. And then you have to, does that mean I'm a selfish person? Does that mean I'm a bad person? I should just be grateful to have a healthy baby and not try to make this about me, right? Like, there's a lot of that. And I'm saying these things because I've had conversations with so many other women who have struggled with this internal dialogue and this sort of projection of other people's experiences onto them. So, I had asked you right after you had shared your birth story with me, right after in last December, I said, what advice would you give to anyone who is, and that's what I'm going to ask you again here. What is the advice that you would give anybody listening to this who is hoping for a VBAC or planning for one themselves?
yeah. Well, it's possible, and I am living proof of that. Um, Again, it's my story, so it doesn't mean it's right for you. So I would, you have to, I think that you need to understand reasons for your C-sections. And I understood that I healed well from my C-sections. And I understood that I actually never was given the opportunity to have natural birth. So I wasn't sure if I could, if that makes any sense. So there, you have to know, you have to sit. You have to sit and really, really sit and listen to that inner voice and quiet all the other voices and know what's right for you. You really do. And I knew, and I said this to my husband too. It was like, why is fear so strong? I said, I'm filling myself up with love every night, and even if it's 98% love, that 2% just comes and goes, "Rah!" and I have to fill myself up again and work on that again. And so that's what I meant by like creating these like invisible boundaries, especially near the end. I just really chose to stay in a place of not really talking too much to many people because I just didn't have the space for my own fear, that I could not have the space to share for their fear as well and their projections. So that would be my advice, to really sit with your internal voice. Um, Surround yourself with people that believe in you, that perhaps believe in you more than you. Um, and do the work. Like maybe prayer doesn't make sense to you, but maybe, I don't know. Some the work is the biggest piece to believe in yourself.
The mental headspace, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I really worked on the mental and emotional piece and
Mhm.
spiritual piece much more this time. That was where the magic happened. So for me, that's
Mhm.
yeah, that was the big piece for me.
And what about, and this is just for context too, because I get a lot of women saying, well, I can't because I'm in my late 30s or there's something around age. So are you willing to share the age you were at all of your births?
Yeah, so I'm of geriatric age.
I think we're the same age, girl.
I was 36 with my first, 38 with my second, and 41 with my third. And it was a vaginal birth after two C-sections. I should go on Oprah.
Yeah. So this is another, we buried the lead here too. So you were 41 having a vaginal home birth after two cesareans. So
Isn't that wild?
yeah, thank you for sharing
Oh,
that.
wow. And the truth is, like when I was pregnant with the first, I was like, oh my God, I'm old. And they make
Mm.
you believe that. That's
Oh, I
another thing,
know.
another societal fear. I'm old, this,
Yeah.
that. I should do extra tests. Like I sat in that fear. I didn't the last time. I feel so good right now. I could probably have another five babies. That's, it's just an age, and I really understand that now. And I think people do need to know that. Like they scare you with this whole age thing. And again, depending on your care provider, like we would joke about it in the midwifery care. They're like, you're young-ish. We would,
Yeah, yeah, totally. I mean, I was 36 and 38 with my two as well. And I mean, if you can conceive it, the hard part with age is the conceiving for most people. It's not necessarily the actual birthing, right? Like I remember my side note on age, and we did IVF because of issues on the male side. So, my doctor said, listen, you could birth a baby. Like I'm like, what's the oldest you could carry and birth a baby? He's just paused. He's like 52. That was his answer.
yeah.
So it's the getting pregnant that is the age thing. It's not in terms of odds and stats and whatever, but it's not the actual birthing part. It's not like your body is weak now all of a sudden because you're 5 years older or something like that.
I I actually think I'm probably more fertile now than I was then. Like,
Interesting.
yeah, I guess we're all different. I have no
Yeah.
idea, but somehow I feel like my hormones are working better now than I did in my 30s, even in my 20s, probably. I don't know that for sure, but that's kind of just how I feel in my body. So I think you really got to go by your
Yeah.
feeling. And
Hmm.
it's funny that you say it because I like on my court, we live on a court, and majority of the people on the court are like the original owners. So there's like all old Italian like women, one
Nice.
neighbors. So they've known me since I was like 4 because we're in my grandmother's home at the moment.
Oh,
Uh,
nice.
so it was like this like turnover, and she's 88 now, and she's like meets my new baby, and she's like, have one more. You need to have just one more. So it's nice and even. And I said to her, really? Like, you think so? Like, I'm 40, like, I'm 41 now, maybe, da, da, da. And she's like, so? My mother had her last one at 48. So we're talking,
No.
right? So she's like, what is this, like, people thinking they're too old? She's like 88. Her mother had her last baby. So who knows how many years ago that was? And she had them at 48. So she's like, what are you guys talking about? People have babies. I don't know what's going on.
Oh,
Why
wow.
did they make us believe this?
That's
And that
amazing.
was probably normal. They probably started as early as 20 and went until
Yeah, yeah.
whenever.
Well, that's the only way you have like 15 kids, right? You have to start
And
young.
I think it's like, again, so individual, all of it, right?
Mhm. Oh,
Sometimes I question why, like, I've been with my husband now, like all of these, like just like, natural conversation, but like we're going to be, what is it, 2023? So we're going to be married for 13 years this October, but I've been with him since I was 18. I've been with him more years than I haven't not been with him.
yeah.
So 24 years together. Why did we choose not to have kids later? I could have had kids in my 20s. So I question all these things, but it's just like, I don't know. That's just your journey, right? Like
Mhm.
there's no right or wrong, right? Some kids are having kids, right? So some people are early, but like, as early as 16, 18, that's their journey. Some of us are having it later. Some of us struggle to get pregnant. Some people have challenging pregnancies. People have challenging births, challenging breastfeeding, or like there's everyone has just a unique story, and there's no right or wrong. And I think that we're all given blessings and challenges, and it's looking at them both and kind of being grateful kind of for both, for all of it, right? So it's like, wow, like now I can almost appreciate my two cesareans even more so now, to have been given this opportunity to have that experience after, after two cesareans. Like I said, I thought I just had to have a third cesarean. And
How has this changed your relationship with your body?
I just find it extraordinary what the female body specifically can do. It's like, what? What? This whole baby grew in me. What? This baby gets birthed out of you. Okay. And again, I don't want to dismiss that for because many of us won't have that opportunity. And I thought I wasn't going to have that opportunity either. And that was a piece missing. I understood that I grew a baby, but I never birthed my baby. My baby was surgically removed from me. And again, grateful that they were healthy and well and all of that. But I didn't have that experience. So I just find it extraordinary what the female body can do. So it grows and grows a whole new organ, a placenta. Like what? What? Did you know how big that placenta is
Yes,
and
I
beautiful,
do.
right? So gorgeous. Which is a story on the own. They showed me how the placenta was and all of this, and I got to keep my placenta. It was gorgeous, bright red. And I, on the May 5th, so it was 5 months later, I just felt like it was a magical number, I guess, the 5th, the 5th, the 5th. So May 5th, 5th month, he was 5 months old, my baby. And I planted my placenta under our cherry tree that has been part of our family like life here. It's been older, it's
Oh,
older.
amazing.
And that was my like, again, like, I don't know, people are gonna think I'm like a weirdo, and like whatever, it's okay. But it was spiritual to me and had meaning for me to do. Um, yeah, like and then you birth this baby, and then like, and then I go back to size, like
Yeah.
what? Like then you go like it's just okay. Not everything's like your body changes too a little bit permanently, and that's fine. It's like these like war signs of what
Yeah.
you've done, right? I just it's a miracle. Like I honestly, there's no words for it. Like how does this happen? Out of nothing, you grow a whole human.
Yeah, it's pretty wild when you actually reflect on it. And one of the things I find myself sharing with students is that birth for many of us can either be the most, unfortunately, traumatizing experience or the most empowering experience.
Oh,
And there isn't really much in the middle. I mean, there are things in the middle, but I would say many times it's pretty either or. And if I'm hearing the story of someone who has had a very empowering experience, I often say, I hope you hold on to this feeling for the rest of your life.
mm,
And may it remind you of your strength during hard times.
yes. And a girlfriend said that to me. I fell into some sort of negative spiral. I don't know how much later after that my third baby was born. Like, we're tired and sleep deprived. And she's like, no, 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 no. Think about what you just did. You manifested that and you made that happen. Don't ever forget that. Bring yourself back up, right? Like, and it was just needed that, and that felt better. Uh, and then just to go back, you had said something about like, yes, baby's safe and baby's healthy, and of course that's the priority. But what about mom,
Mm-hmm.
right? And again, of course, the first and foremost thing is healthy and safety. And I understood that in science, I suppose I don't even say science, but in our society here, specifically in North America, it is quote unquote the safest procedure to get a cesarean after you've had a cesarean. Um, and 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 it's a perfect fit for many. And again, I'm not dismissing that. For many people want that even, right? And I joked about it at one point, like when I was like, third cesarean. I remember joking with my midwife. I was like, okay, well, I'll just get, plan it, schedule it, and get a pedicure beforehand, and da da da. And like, I joked about it, but it didn't really sit with me. Like, I also, again, it's not important for everybody. I also could not wrap my head around picking my child's birthday. I don't know how to explain it. It was like
Mm-hmm.
they're supposed to come when they're supposed to come. I don't know. I don't know how to explain it. And that's not important for everybody again, but it was important for me for them to come when there's, I don't know, like I
They
couldn't
choose
schedule
it.
it.
They choose
Yeah.
it.
So even the two C-sections I had, I didn't know when I was going to have them. They were
Mm-hmm.
still kind of organic, if that makes any sense.
Yes.
Because then if I was actually going to schedule it, it probably would have been a different day, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that was another piece for me. But so like yes, I could have ensured, more or less ensured the safety of my child by scheduling a C-section for my third baby. But I could also, again, just for me, I'm sure other people have cesareans and recover differently, but I knew what my recovery looked like, and it's not positive for me. Night and day for me. Not 100, 1,000 times better. 1,000 times. Like 1,000 times different than what I went through. And unless you have had that surgery, I think it gets dismissed a little.
Yeah.
Like, oh well, she had a surgery, she had a C-section. There's thousands of them every day. It gets very, very dismissed. And again, some people have much more positive experiences. Like I have a girlfriend that just had a C-section. It's her fourth baby. So she had three vaginals and the fourth one was a C-section. And she's bouncing up and she's fine. And I'm so happy for her. And I said, like, I'm so grateful and happy that your experience is not like mine, but that was not my experience. Like, I was up and moving after this one so much differently that my body just felt different. And therefore, I think it has a connection to your brain.
Uh-huh.
Um, I just am happier and healthier. I am
Yeah.
happier and healthier. And I don't think that should be dismissed because a happy, healthy mom is needed for a happy and healthy baby.
It comes down to also what's important to you and your own and your values. And this is really important to you, again, individually. And that's what matters. Like your values should take a high priority when you're making these decisions. And I'm really happy to hear that it all worked out and you were able to tune into that and sit with everything and also have a healing experience because everyone deserves that.
Yeah, thank you. I feel that it's just been a blessing in so many ways. And I feel overall that it sounds strange, but I feel like I've become a better parent to all three. I just, yeah, it's interesting.
Oh, I believe it. Oh God, I haven't laughed and cried at the same time in a long time. So thank you for that.
A lot of sharing. I don't know. I didn't edit myself at all, so I'm not sure. I'm like, oh, should I retract some
No,
stuff?
no, no. You're sharing your experience, and that is what is such a gift. And you've shared that very generously. And we all appreciate that. And I know it's a lot. So hopefully you're not feeling drained, but rather you're feeling invigorated after this conversation.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, yes, thank you. And like I said, may it hit the ears of those who need to hear it most.
Amen to that.